Recently in the show, we took a deep dive into the amazing world of Dijon mustard with help from our friends at Mai. Mai brings over 270 years of French craftsmanship to every jar of premium Dijon mustard. Since 1747, Mai has been perfecting the art of flavor, transforming everything from simple sandwiches to gourmet meals. Look for the "Oh My, It's a Great Talk About Dijon Mustard" episode in the This Is Taste podcast feed.
I have never just fully cleaned up my plate of airplane food. I was licking the plate.
Okay, you were not, because I would not have stood for that, but it was very satisfying. This is Taste. I'm your host, Aliza Barbanel. Today on the show, we're doing something a little different. It's a special travel episode featuring myself and my girlfriend, Shirley Chan. She's a talented cinematographer and also my favorite travel partner, and we just came back from a month in Asia visiting Thailand and her family in Taiwan. Today, we're diving deep into our recs for Taipei, Kaohsiung, Taichung, and Tainan, with a stopover in Chiang Mai and Bangkok too. It's a must-listen if you're planning a trip to either country, and even if you're not, it's still a lot of fun. Shirley Chan, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, that was so weird. I feel like this has been the long-awaited conclusion to 2 years of me talking about my girlfriend Shirley on the podcast and all of the things that we go eat together. And I guess you've been listening to the podcast and now you're on it.
Yeah, on 1.3 speed.
Okay, but that was a compromise because what were you listening to it at originally?
1.5.
And it's not weird for you to hear my voice sped up like that?
It's not that sped up. I just get more of you in less time.
So I guess there were a lot of opportunities that we could have found a reason to have Shirley into the studio before. But today we're here to talk about our big trip that we took together in January in Taiwan and in Thailand. I guess the point of this episode is to talk about all the food that we had, just kind of the travel experiences in the hopes that if anyone is listening and they, have plans to go to Taiwan and or Thailand, or maybe after this episode find a newfound desire to go there, that these are kind of some jumping off points and some of the things that we really enjoyed on the trip. And I think we'll talk about it chronologically. So Taipei, our time in Thailand, and then back our time in mostly southern Taiwan. But to start, I'm wondering if you could tell me, just when you go back to Taiwan, what are you most excited to eat?
I am most excited to eat all sorts of noodles, and I am especially excited to eat beef soup in Tainan.
Okay, what's the beef soup download? Because it actually is not something that we had when I was with you.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, with Lunar New Year, it was closed when we wanted to go, or at least when I wanted to go. But basically, it is like the freshest beef, like slaughtered day of, and then cut and just thrown into a flavorful, clear broth. It's like when you go eat hot pot and there's really fresh, quality beef. It's like that kind of beef. Like it melts in your mouth.
I think something that I noticed when we were in Taiwan together is how much local ingredients really come into factor of like what is popular in a certain place. And what you're saying about beef soup and Tainan being one of the biggest producers of beef on the island, it makes sense that this dish would be so special and kind of only seen there because that's where they have access to the freshest beef.
Totally.
So what was kind of the lore that you had heard about shrimp fishing establishments in Taipei?
We went to one that is open from like 5 p.m. until like 3 a.m. And the deal is you walk in, there is a pond indoors, and there's shrimp in it. And people sit around this pond just
drinking beers, fishing for shrimp, and then when you catch your amount of shrimp, you take it to the back and grill it yourself. And I don't think I was really prepared for the experience of what it would feel like when I actually caught the shrimp. You fish. I don't really fish, and I didn't know what to do.
I must say, Aliza is a much better shrimp fisher than I am a regular angler.
Yeah, you actually know how to fish. I think there is just some kind of luck. We were also sitting next to this man who was clearly a regular. He had his own rod and reel set up that he had brought with him. He had his own special bait that he had brought with him.
And he would attach 2 baits at once and catch 2
It
with a
was
flick of a
crazy.
wrist.
And then he would like drop the shrimp that he caught onto the ground, immediately recast, and then pick up the shrimp and unhook them and put them in his net. I guess they have nets that are inside of the pond. So once you catch them, you can keep the shrimp alive until it's time to eat them. And he also drank like a full case of beer over the time we were there.
He was incredible.
We were obsessed with him, obviously. And in
And
the
he took
beginning,
Aliza under his wing.
he really did. I think at first he kind of didn't like me because I caught my first shrimp and I panicked and I screamed a little bit, and then I made you unhook it for me because I didn't know how to do that. And it's kind of dangerous because they're trying to come at you with their claws a little
They're
bit.
also huge.
They're-
They're like bigger than our hands.
They're quite large shrimp. But then I think because we stayed there for 2.5 hours and we just kept casting and we were really determined in what we were doing, I think he slowly warmed himself to us. And then by the end of it, he was showing us his special wrist flick technique so that we could kind of get the hook in there after we caught them. He even like put his own bait on my rod at one
He
point.
had special bait. So the bait that you use for the shrimp is actually tiny dried shrimp.
feels a little weird.
Yes, definitely a little weird, but he had special tiny dried shrimp that he put on Aliza's rod while she was in the bathroom. And I was like, that is so sweet.
Yeah, I thanked him. I called him teacher. He really liked that. And then he disappeared into the night. We never saw him again.
Yeah, didn't even say bye. While we were like cooking our shrimp, he just left. Yeah, but it's really interesting. It really like all kinds of people are in the shrimp fishing place. We went at maybe like 6 p.m. or something, but I'm very curious what the crowd is like at like 1 a.m. Like, you know.
Yeah, I think next time we go back, we're definitely going to do the post bar to shrimp fishing pipeline. And the owner we chatted with a little bit, he said that he's worked there for 34 years since he was 19 and that he still sees all kinds of people there, that he really thinks it's universally popular. I've seen some people refer to it as like Taiwanese bowling in terms of the level of like leisure activity that it fits into people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, we were also next to a family across from us, a couple on a date.
Bunch of like Japanese businessmen came in.
Yeah, all kinds of people.
And I will say you do have to kill the shrimp yourself, which I was not emotionally prepared to do. So word to the wise. But
However, I did read on Google reviews that sometimes the owner will cook the shrimp for you.
I don't believe that. He does not seem like he would do that.
I know. He seemed like he did not care.
In the best possible way.
And you know what? I think we did a really great job with our shrimp that we cooked.
I mean, it was delicious, and it was something that I don't think you could do anywhere else. So that was really fun.
Yes, a very Taiwanese experience.
I want to talk about some of the other places that we really liked in Taipei, and Moon Moon is one of them.
Oh my God. I had this place Moon Moon saved, and we ordered a few things. And one of the things that a lot of people were talking about in the Google reviews and when we kind of looked around were these truffle noodles. And we were excited about these like sesame noodles we ordered, but we were like, I guess let's get the truffle noodles. People really like these.
Well, I should also say that they're known for doing soups. They call themselves the leading brand in Chinese wellness soups. They have 13 locations across Taiwan. So we did get a clam soup. We got the sesame noodles and we got the truffle noodles.
Mm-hmm.
I think right away we realized that we were not expecting what we received with the truffle noodles.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a big truffle person, and I never go out of the way to order truffle anything. But first bite, I was like, oh my God, these might be one of my favorite noodles I've ever had.
They were really incredible. You know, I often on the show ask people like your least favorite ingredient. I think truffle is the most common thing that people say because it can be so overbearing and just kind of artificial feeling. But these truffle noodles were delicious. I think maybe it was because there was like soy and other things going on that balanced out the truffle a little bit. Also, the noodles
like crispy
themselves,
garlic on top.
Yeah, okay, crispy garlic on anything, and we're kind of in. But
Yeah.
we kind of pushed everything aside and just devoured the truffle noodles first.
Yeah, and the noodles themselves were also just like extremely just like chewy and delicious. Another thing that is subtle and flavorful.
Yes, and you even brought back some of the truffle noodles, right?
Yes, they sell the noodles, but we did not buy it that day. When I was at the airport, they have a special secret section that they advertise for foodies at the airport. And one of the vendors there is Moon Moon Food. So obviously my last meal before I left, I had to go there, and I got like a set with like this garlic chicken soup with the truffle noodles, and they also sold the noodles. So I was like, I got to buy a couple packs. Bring them
Shirley
home.
came home after me and immediately started showing me her suitcase full of everything that she had bought. And one of the first things were these 2 giant packages of these truffle noodles. I wish that I had gone at the airport because it would have been a nice final meal.
Yeah.
The other thing I think of note at Moon Moon Food is that we became aware of what I would say is like the closing time song of Taiwan. We got in right at the end, and everyone around us was kind of finishing up their meals, and we were kind of lost in the sauce with these truffle noodles. And then we noticed this ballad that was being played over the speakers repeatedly at increasingly loud intervals.
I have to add that the entire time we were dining, they were playing K-pop, and we were like vibing to it. So it was very jarring when we noticed this ballad start playing. We looked it up, and it's called the Goodnight Song, Wan An Qu by Fei Yuqin, who I do remember like growing up, my parents listening to him, my family listening to him. He's very popular. You know, you turn on the TV, you hear him, and it's a song by him. It's called Goodnight Song, and they just play it whenever a business is closing.
And once we heard it, we were kind of hyper attuned to it. And I think there were a couple times over the trip that we would be somewhere around closing time and we would hear this song come on, and then we would know, okay, it's time to get our stuff together and go.
Like, we were at a sauna once, and towards the end, and they started playing it. There was no music playing in the sauna. All of a sudden, there's music playing, and it's this song.
And I love it. And when we did karaoke on our last day, we closed it out with this song, which we didn't really know how to sing. But I think even
we hummed it.
We hummed along, we listened to it, and then we left. It was perfect.
Yeah, and they played the song 5 times before we left.
At Moon Moon.
At Moon Moon.
Because we had noodles to eat. We did it as quickly as we could. Also, we didn't realize what the song was telling us until maybe the 3rd time around.
Yeah, we were so sucked into the noodles. By the time we looked up, we realized they had basically put up all the chairs and were mopping the floors around us.
Then we left.
And they also played the song louder and louder each time.
Yeah, we got the message finally.
Yeah.
I think another meal we had in Taipei that I thought was pretty special was at this restaurant that they kind of say is a Taiwanese izakaya called Chan Shi Fan. There are a lot of izakaya across Taiwan because Taiwan was a Japanese colony for a long time. So you can get a lot of really good karage and sushi and like all kinds of Japanese food. But this restaurant is kind of taking that approach towards all Taiwanese food. All of the ingredients that they use, including all of the liquor, is made on the island. And they have a lot of dishes that I thought to be kind of special and distinct, like the chicken fat rice.
Oh my God, that chicken fat rice was so good.
And it is exactly what it sounds like. It's just this bowl of warm rice with this delicious kind of rendered chicken fat on top. But it was very kind of comforting.
And it's rendered chicken fat, and then they have, like, whenever they do these sort of like rice with chicken fat or like turkey fat or whatever, there's always like this like sweet soy sauce that they like add into it. So it's just like this flavor that I think is very Taiwanese, and it's just very delicious.
Their fried chicken was maybe the juiciest fried chicken I've ever had, and I think that's because they marinate it in tofu before they fry it, and it just has all of this moisture and deliciousness inside of it. And then also we had that sarsaparilla whiskey drink that you really liked.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up drinking like a sarsaparilla drink. My grandpa always just called it SARS. Basically, it's that drink with Taiwanese whiskey in it. And it really just tasted like my childhood, but grown up.
I think that's verbatim what you said to me with this shining look in your eyes. And it was so cute. And I think the other special thing about this restaurant is that their kind of mission towards showcasing Taiwanese food extends into the decor. We were sitting at the bar beneath a sign that said Taiwan is an independent country. They had lots of kind of movie posters on the walls from famous Taiwanese movies and a lot of young people and like cute dogs even there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything else from Taipei that you want to shout out, or do you think we can jump over to Thailand for a little bit?
How about Taihu?
Oh, Taihu Brewing is a big brewery in Taiwan that we went to. They have a couple locations around the island, and they have a couple in Taipei that have different like food themes at each of them. We went to the one in Da'an, which is a really great kind of shopping eating neighborhood. And
It's
everybody,
like a very trendy, like where young people live.
yeah. And everyone was talking about the burger when we went into it. But I think we had a different favorite thing there, actually.
The burger is good. Like it's a solid burger, but we also ordered dumplings, and oh my goodness, those dumplings were incredible.
They were boiled pork dumplings
Mhm.
and then had kind of two different hot sauce components going on. There was a Szechuan chili oil, and then there was also XO sauce on top.
Yeah, and then I think just like cilantro and scallions sprinkled on top as well. I don't know. It was extremely juicy. The sauce mixture, perfect. No notes.
It was great. And the beer also was quite good. And I'm someone that really likes sours and more fruity beer. And that's kind of something they do really well there. Taiwan is really known as an island for having a strong fruit culture. I think we would love to talk at length about the fruit as well in a little bit. But it's fun that they have these offerings on the menu that have, a guava gosa, or they have like a Meyer lemon ale and things like that. But I think you just had the Taihu lager, and it was a really good lager.
Super solid.
I want to move over and talk about Thailand a little bit because we went in the middle of our trip after being in Taipei for a week and acclimating. We felt like since we were already in Asia, we might as well get to explore another place. Neither of us had been to Thailand before. And I think our first amazing eating journey actually happened on the flight over from Taiwan to Thailand. We flew on Starlux, right? It's a new airline?
Yes, it's a newer airline. It is based out of Taiwan. And I just feel like this experience was top tier. Like, I feel like the plane felt so new and so beautiful and clean and comfortable. And then the food just blew us out of the, it was just...
Well, it's a 4-hour flight. I think I would never expect to be given food on a 4-hour flight in the U.S., period. Much less this, beautiful bento box we received that had, really good rice with tofu, even, this little steamed carrot that was carved into a rose. It was delicious.
This carrot was so good.
It's the most perfectly cooked steamed carrot I've ever had. And it had no business being that beautiful. It didn't need to be a rose, but somebody decided that, they needed to go that extra mile. You're just crying because it was so good right now.
It's so good. It was like a pork belly. It was pork belly on rice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pork belly on rice. Just
came with a
cooked
little
to perfection.
Little tuna salad cup on the side.
Yeah.
They also had a signature cocktail with blue curacao in it, which we did not drink, but they passed out just cups of it to everybody on the plane. The girls in front of us were doing online shopping on the screen and drinking their blue cocktails together. They were having a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're documenting every part of that experience.
I don't blame them, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I took a photo of my meal because I was like, this looks amazing. And then I took a photo after the meal where I have never just fully cleaned up my plate of airplane food.
Clean tray club instead of clean.
I was licking the plate.
Okay, you were not, because I would not have stood for that, but it was very satisfying. And then when we got to Thailand, we went to 2 places. We were in Chiang Mai in the north for just a couple of days, and then we spent a lot of time in Bangkok. I think there were 2, to me, really special food experiences that we had in Chiang Mai. The first was our first dinner there at Made Slow Fish, which I don't even know how I heard about this place to begin with, but they're connected to a fishing cooperative in southern Thailand. And so they're really focused on doing hyper-seasonal, really fresh, sustainable seafood. And they actually started during the pandemic as a way to kind of support fishermen with sustainable practices who had a loss of revenue and some restaurants shut down. And when you walk up, they have this open kitchen kind of on the sidewalk. And you just see these open grills with 2 kind of grid-like pieces of mesh that the fish go in between, and then they're kind of grilled flat on the fire. And that, I think, was how I knew right away that it was going to be something special.
Mm-hmm. That and the man who was sitting outside eating by himself a whole fish, some sautéed veggies, and this large beer. And he just looked like he was having the best meal of his life. And I was like, we got to get that fish.
Yeah, and we did, ask the server. We just kind of pointed at that guy and we said, what fish is he eating? Because that's what we want to have, which I think is another good takeaway for traveling, is especially if you're in a place where you don't speak the language. You can certainly use Google Translate on a menu, but sometimes things are lost in translation. And I think if you see someone eating something that you want to try, just asking for that thing is a really good way to go about it.
Yeah.
Also, the pomelo salad we had.
I loved that pomelo salad. Yeah, everything there. Really, really good.
Very special. And then also we went to a really special kind of brothy noodle place, more of outside of the center of Chiang Mai, that our friend Kelly, whose family lives in Chiang Mai, turned us on to. And
Yeah, it's like a Hong Kong barbecue kind of style kind of place. So, wonton noodle soup with really great like barbecue roast pork. Just delicious. We were the only non-local people there, and all the aunties working there were just like watching us eat, and we were just like loving it, and they loved it.
something else that I really love about, I think, eating in Asia in general, but specifically in Thailand, is the amount of kind of sauces and condiments and accoutrements that are on the table for you to kind of zhuzh up your own bowl. Like you were mentioning before at the beef noodle soup place in Tainan that they would have like cooking wine or vinegar. But in Thailand, they kind of have 6 or 8 things on the table most of the time. They have 2 different kinds of chili, something vinegary, sugar to zhuzh it up yourself, peanuts maybe if it calls for that. And I really like that kind of like interaction and the ability to customize your things. I think it makes it feel really special.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was really hot when we ate those brothy noodles. I think at first I didn't know if I wanted soup, but by the end of it, that bowl really actually was licked clean.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Bangkok, which I think a lot of people told us that Bangkok was going to be overwhelming, but I don't know if I actually felt that way.
No, the only overwhelming thing was the fact that it is physically so big. And we did a lot of walking. There was one day where we had like 20,000 steps.
Like 30,000 probably, you
Yeah.
know? I think being from LA, I took a similar approach to Bangkok, which is you don't want to try to cross the whole city during rush hour. We stayed in 2 different parts of Bangkok. We started further to the east in a newer part, and then we moved over to Chinatown, closer to the river. And we never really tried to cross the whole city. We just kind of stayed in those 2 different areas. And so even when we did take the car, which, you know, we took a lot of like the subway or just walking around, like we never really got caught up in that like really bad 2 hours to get across town kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really cool to start in the newer part of Bangkok, which almost felt like, I don't know, Miami maybe to me.
It felt like a mix of like every large city I've been to.
Yeah.
Like definitely Miami, LA, because of how much space there is.
Right. Like the buildings themselves, the newer buildings, are physically very large.
Yeah.
And then also the malls.
Mega malls. The mall culture there is on another level. Mall culture in Asia is not like in the States.
In that there is actually a mall culture.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like a place where people actually want to be. And most malls are like multiple stories, like at least like 10. Like one mall in Bangkok is probably 4 times like the width of a mall in Taiwan. And it's also like 10 stories. And maybe there's an amusement park too. And maybe there's
a floating market in the basement.
Exactly. And then, you know, we were looking for like this one clothing store, and we looked it up and it said that it was in this mall called M-Sphere. And then when we looked up M-Sphere, we had something else saved over there, and we realized it was in the mall next door. And I was like, why is there a mall next door? And that in itself took like truly like 20 minutes walk between the malls.
So a lot of our Thai friends were telling us that the malls were a good place to go. And I think that's because they have air conditioning, first of all.
Yeah.
So it's a very like easy place for people to hang out the whole day. They're a really good kind of third space opportunity for people that isn't work or home. And also a lot of the famous street vendors or people in the night markets have second locations in these malls by now. So you can kind of skip, like we were at like Yaorat, which is one of the big night markets in Bangkok, and it's, you know, chest to chest full of people, really long lines. And then when we were at a mall over there, we saw a lot of those same vendors having a second location. And it is really fun to go to that market. But if you want to like sit down in the air conditioning and eat, you could get that food there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we ended up going to a mall that was recommended to us called Siam Paragon. And that one is the one that's known for all the most famous street vendors in Bangkok have a spot there. So we went there. But by that point in the trip, we actually got food poisoning, so we actually didn't get to try it.
Well, okay, we could talk about the food poisoning because that is a reality of travel. But before we got food poisoning and we were kind of eating everything, which I think we have no regrets, I would say.
No regrets,
At
never.
all. We would eat everything again.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that really surprised me about Bangkok, which I just probably didn't think about this, but it's such a global hub. And so you can have amazing Thai food in Bangkok, but you can also have amazing Japanese food, Chinese food. It has the biggest population of Chinese immigrants outside of China. We had like incredible yakitori at Aburi Ishida. Do you remember that chicken meatball that we had?
Delicious.
And the vongole was actually the best vongole pasta I've had in my entire life.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was like a little spicy and it was, oh my God. I wanted another plate.
We sat at the counter, which was awesome because we got to just look into this kitchen. They had maybe 12 people in this small kitchen.
And most of them just like badass women.
Yes.
Can I say badass?
Yes.
Cool.
You could say more than badass.
Ooh.
And they were all in their station working on their own yakitori. It was so delicious. We also had really good Japanese pastries at a local bakery called Custard Nakamura.
Oh my goodness.
Which I think we found just by seeing how busy it was.
Yeah, we were on our way to, I think, a coffee shop. So we were just going down a side street and we just saw people bursting out of this shop. And we were like, what is this? And we walked in and I wanted to try every pastry.
We got 4 things. We got a custard croissant because it's called Custard Nakamura. So we figured we had to.
And it was delicious.
Red bean rice bun.
Delicious.
Also delicious. And then I guess 3 things. Salt butter bread, which was not something I had had before, but you were really intent on trying.
I always love a salt butter bread. So I always want to try it.
And it is just kind of what it says. It's like a delicious, fluffy, buttery roll that has salt inside of it.
Yeah.
But it tastes better than that. It was so buttery and crisp on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of the perfect thing to start our day. Also, I think being in Bangkok Chinatown was really cool, coming from Taiwan, which obviously has a big Chinese influence as well, and seeing the way that Thai food and Chinese food have kind of come together and made different kinds of things. You even got to speak some Mandarin when we were in Thailand at some of the places, which was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, some people would literally just ask me if I spoke Mandarin and we would just start speaking, which was a lot easier. Because I remember we were at a coffee shop and
Mother Roaster, which was such a special coffee shop.
Yeah, you walk into a place that looks like it's just a junkyard,
Mm-hmm.
but then you go up these stairs, and then you're in this beautiful little coffee shop that feels like a little treehouse
With 15 cats maybe hanging out.
Yes, there were a lot of cats. I was surrounded at one point because we brought out some pastries we had picked up prior to that, and the cats just surrounded me, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
We had to leave after that.
We had to leave. But yeah, I was ordering coffee, and this guy was like, do you speak Mandarin? And just started chatting with me.
I would say I found that people in Thailand, a lot of people spoke very good English, I think because Thailand has been such a big tourist destination for so long, and there are so many people coming there that maybe don't speak English as a first language, but are using it as the common language when traveling.
Yeah.
The coffee in general in Thailand was incredible, I thought.
Yeah, you really like the fruity ones.
Yeah, in the U.S., I drink black coffee, maybe because I'm less happy here. But in Thailand and in Taiwan, I got really into drinking espresso tonic that had some kind of fruit added to it. I think the first time I got really into that was when we were in Chiang Mai and we went to Graf Cafe, which I think a lot of people had recommended to us. And they had an espresso tonic that had calamansi added to it. And then from there, I started noticing in a lot of places that there would be an espresso tonic with some kind of citrus addition. And it really just plays up the fruitiness in coffee so well. And I find it also kind of lighter and easier to drink when you're in a hot place.
Yeah, definitely. Super refreshing. I always just stuck to Americano. But even the Americanos there, I just feel like you really taste the coffee in it. And a lot of times, I would also order a pour over. They're so knowledgeable about all the different beans and flavors and very specifically asking me what I was looking for, which sometimes I would get overwhelmed and I'm like, please just choose for me. Yeah, or I would just get a flat white, my comfort drink.
Your go-to.
Yeah.
I think something that we really appreciated about Thailand and Taiwan was the fruit that we got to have there. And in Thailand, I think it was obviously the best mango that I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, definitely incredible mango. I feel like I always thought of myself as someone who didn't really enjoy mango sticky rice that much, but when you pair it with an incredible mango, I ended up eating a mango sticky rice every day.
Right, and they also have the sweet condensed milk and then puffed rice that goes on top as well. And I think that addition of the puffed rice, so you have something like that soft, almost squishy mango, the rice, and then that kind of crunch from the toasted rice really kind of adds up to be something special. We also had white pomelo, which we had been looking for, I think, for years at this point.
Yeah, I feel like in New York, whenever we get a pomelo and we hope that it's going to be white inside, it is never white inside, and it's never as good.
It's always pink.
Yeah, exactly. But in Thailand, it was really good, and it was, I think, in season, so it was extra good.
Yeah, so we both grew up on the West Coast, and I think on the West Coast, yellow or white pomelo is much more common than here on the East Coast, and that's why this is something that we both like think of as pomelo, right? To me, that's what pomelo should be, but it's not really possible to find here. So when we saw it at the night markets and people are displaying these, beautiful cut pomelo, it looks like jewels almost. We just kind of immediately gravitated over and wanted to have it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's very common to have like fruit vendors just displaying their beautiful fruits, and it's hard not to buy some.
Right. And also a lot of them are like 24/7, which I think is awesome. Like when we were back in Taiwan with your mom, her local fruit stand was always open.
Even on Lunar New Year.
Yeah, we stopped by like after dinner and got more fruit.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to Taiwan, but I guess we should pick up the food poisoning thread, which is we did get food poisoning. We don't know what caused it, and it did make me cry because I felt like I couldn't have any more spicy food. It was not working for me, and that was like the big reason why I wanted to go to Thailand. So I had to kind of like swallow that disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, we were in a place where everything is just every dish has every flavor profile that exists in one dish, and we wanted to eat everything, but we couldn't. Our stomachs could not handle it.
But having to do the like brat diet, which is not Charlie XCX diet, but like banana, rice, applesauce toast, I guess is the American version.
Yes, we did the brat diet in the Thailand version, which included, because at that point we were staying in Chinatown, so we got congee and mento, which is just a plain steamed white bun.
But the congee was also like some of the best congee I'd ever had. I think you said
flavorful.
They probably blended it, right? It was so smooth.
Yeah. I think they blended it, and they definitely had some sort of spices in there. Like it was not a plain congee, and that was okay because it was delicious and it was enough for our stomach to handle.
We also had really good tiny bananas.
Oh my God, that was a huge part of us getting better. The bananas, they really gave us life. I feel like I'm not a big banana person when I'm here in the States. It's just something where I'm like, I need substance, so I'm just gonna eat this. But I would actively be like, I want a banana now.
Okay, I'm going to take us back to Taiwan because I don't want this episode to be a million hours long, and we had a lot more delicious things. So when we made it back to Taiwan, we went back to Kaohsiung in the south, and we were still sick, I would say. So we weren't able to eat a lot, but we did have really incredible sushi.
Yes, and it is such a bummer that we were still feeling kind of sick because the sushi, like the moment like I walked in and I was looking at the sushi, I just knew this was quality sushi. And even eating it, I was like, wow, the texture of this salmon belly I'm having right now, delicious.
The tuna was so fatty, and this is in the south of Taiwan. I mean, the whole island has great fishing, but it does seem to be that there's just incredible fish and seafood happening down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had a really delicious like eel rice bento box thing.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. We wanted to go to this restaurant called Akame, which is an indigenous like Taiwanese restaurant that we couldn't get a reservation at. But every time we mentioned it to someone, they were like, "Oh, you absolutely have to go there." So I think when we go back, that's a place we should go to.
Yeah, and every time we mention it to someone, they also said, "Oh yeah, that place is notoriously hard to get a reservation at." And I'm like, I can tell.
We'll try harder next time.
Yeah.
But by the time we made it up to Taichung, I think we were back in eating form a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite place we ate at there was your favorite hot pot place that you took me to.
Oh my God. The last time I was in Taichung, I stayed next to this hot pot place, and I just saw like people coming in and out of it all the time. So I was like, all right, looks popular, gotta go. And I went by myself to a hot pot place. And what's great about it is that you order the broth that you want. And my go-to order is like the Parmesan milk broth, which sounds crazy.
I've never seen that in the U.S.
Yeah, and I always see if it's available in the U.S., but they don't have it. And it's really just mostly like a very milky broth. You don't really taste the cheese part that much, but you get that, and then you order it with like you're supposed to order it as like a hot pot set. So you choose a protein that you want, and whether that's, like beef or pork or lamb or a seafood option. I had gotten mine with beef, and Aliza got a shrimp and clams one. And so we split that between the both of us. And then you have a all you can eat veggie bar, like for all the other things you want to add into your hot pot. And just the quality of the ingredients, like all across the board, just top tier. And so everything just tastes really good. And then when they refill your broth too, like they're using the broth itself. So it remains flavorful rather than just like, hot water.
Yeah, I really liked, you got this Parmesan milky broth, which was a lot. I don't think I could have eaten like the whole meal like that, but it was really good. And I got this like Taiwanese pepper herbal broth, which was kind of tangy and sweet. And they said it would be spicy, but I don't actually think it was that spicy. But it was just like so satisfying. And I think you're really right about the quality of the ingredients. We had like 8 kinds of mushrooms, probably taro, fried tofu skin, all of those things. And they also had something I'd never seen before, which is like this little kind of figure called an O card that you put it on the table on a different side if you need any kind of service. So if you want a broth refill, you put it on one side. If you want the check, you put it on another side. And it uses some kind of sensor, and then immediately someone comes over. And I just thought that was so smart and interesting.
Yeah, we literally needed the server, and we were like looking at this little cube and was like, which side? We put it down. Truly within seconds, he shows up. He's like, hey, what do you need?
The other thing going into Taichung that we knew we needed to go to was Minimal, which is this ice cream shop that has the distinction of being the first Michelin-starred ice cream shop anywhere in the world. And when we showed up, I think this was the longest line that we waited in the whole time.
Yeah. But it moved pretty fast because it's just like scoops.
Yeah, they used to do like a whole tasting menu experience, which I wish we had the opportunity to try. But instead, we just got our scoops and we, waited in our line and got to the front. And I think we each got 2 flavors. And I had this tangerine Szechuan peppercorn flavor and then a pine needle flavor. And then you had 2 boozy flavors, right? Whiskey and sake?
Yeah, it was, what was it? I think it was like
whiskey genmaicha.
Whiskey genmaicha and then sake. I think it was sake with maybe like a fruit or something.
It tasted very sake forward to me.
Yeah, I wasn't really that big on the sake, but I was really enjoying like the whiskey genmaicha. And the texture, I don't even know how to describe it.
I mean, you said, I wrote down this, if ice cream could hug your tongue.
Okay.
Which you should be hosting the food podcast and not me. It had this very fine, like delicate texture, I think, for an ice cream. It wasn't kind of thick and voluptuous in the same way that gelato would be. And I did like it. I don't know if I think it should be the only Michelin-starred ice cream place in the world.
Well, I think along with that, it used to be a tasting menu.
Right.
Which is why it became Michelin-starred too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So they changed up the format, I think, to serve more people. We went and ate it in a park nearby. I thought that was really fun. Another place that we went to in Taichung that I thought was really special was Chicha Sanchen, which is a kind of like third wave boba place. And when we walked up to the store, I think we knew that we were kind of in for something special because it was huge.
Yeah, it was in a beautiful building too. Like there were 2 locations, but I was like, I think we should go to this one because this one's
the flagship.
It's bigger.
It had a tea garden on the 3rd floor roof.
We didn't know until we were chatting with the person providing the tea tasting.
I should come back to that. We walk in and there's a whole sidebar where they're doing tea tastings through 5 different roasts of oolong tea, because oolong tea is kind of the biggest tea in Taiwan in general and also the major focus of this kind of boba chain. So we ordered our drinks, we did this whole tea tasting, and then we were chatting with the woman who's doing the tea tasting. She said, "Oh, did you check out the tea garden?" And we just kind of looked at her and she told us about it. We went up to the 3rd floor. They have a whole garden with tea plants growing there. They're not cultivating those tea plants, but they're the same plants that are being used, elsewhere on the island to make the boba.
It's for people to see and get to like
connect to the plant.
Yeah.
And I would say something that we noticed a lot in Taiwan that I was very into were these little boba carriers that people use to carry their drinks around hands-free. It's almost like a cup holder on a strap, so you can put it around your wrist. And we like even made them ourselves, which is really fun. But at Chicha-san-chun, they have their own boba carriers made out of like twine that they affix to your drink for you, which I think is a level of kind of service and care that we didn't see anywhere else.
Yeah, so we came ready with our drink carriers, but then they just put their own on them.
We didn't even need them. It was kind of sad.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move over to Tainan, which is where we ended the trip, which is where your mom lives, and it's in the south, and it's the oldest city in Taiwan, and I think it has a lot of culinary traditions that are preserved there that you can't really find anywhere else. And we were talking to Clarissa Wei, whose, cookbook Made in Taiwan we love so much, and her writing about the island. We met up with her in Taipei. We told her we're going to Tainan, and she said, "Oh, are you going to go to the cocktail bars?" Because Tainan is really known for cocktail bars. And even in our own research, we kept on finding all of these really incredible cocktail bars that we wanted to go to. And I think that's because it's a more affordable city for young people. So if you want to open your own place, it's possible to do it there. But had you been to those kind of bars before?
No, usually I'm just with family there, so I don't really drink that much.
Yeah, your family is always like asking us if we drink, and we're like, not really, but I guess we did go to the cocktail bars.
Anytime that people find out we're American, they're like, "Do you drink a lot?" I'm like, no.
Well, we went to this bar called Hera that I think you found on Instagram, and my drink that I had there was this is embarrassing. It was a clarified passion fruit porn star martini, which is not a drink that I would ever order anywhere. But I think passion fruit is a seasonal fruit when we were in Taiwan, and we were eating a lot of really good passion fruit from the fruit stand. So I wanted to have it, and it was so delicious. I feel like I'm now invigorated to order porn star martinis everywhere I go. What did you have?
I had this thing called the emoliente. They had two menus, which one is like all of their reimagined classic cocktails. They had a theme for their menu, and it was boundaries, I think.
Yeah, it was exploring the idea of like how Taiwan connects to other places around the world. And something I should say about Hera is that they really have a focus on local ingredients and expressing those in cocktails, hence the passion fruit porn star martini. So your drink was from this boundaries menu of Taiwan interacting with other places.
Right. So my drink was called the emoliente. It was like a sweet and fruity, earthy drink that had like pisco, pineapple, bottle leaf, horsetail, and barley kombucha. And I was like, all right, that sounds fascinating. And it was so good. And it came with a very delicate cracker on top that was in the shape of like
a leaf?
More like a branch.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a branch. And it came perched on the top. And then I think as you sipped it, you would nibble on that cookie.
Yeah. So you nibble and you sip, or vice versa. You just pair it together. And then we also got an incredible pistachio Basque cheesecake.
Yeah, I really have to say, I love that a lot of the cocktail bars in Tainan have dessert available as well. And this pistachio Basque cheesecake was maybe the best Basque cheesecake I've ever had. It was perfect texture, just squishy, slightly in the middle, a little soft. And that pistachio flavor was like so special and pronounced. We were kind of obsessed.
Very obsessed.
We made friends with one of the bartenders there. We promised to bring him dried chilies from Mexico the next time we come back because he wanted to use dried chilies in one of the cocktails, but they're hard to find there. So he used like a Taiwanese fresh chili instead. If you're listening to this, we will bring you the chilies when we come back again. And we also went to another good bar in Tainan called Slow Down that he recommended to us, where I had a really good like fizzy guava cocktail that I was very into.
And they also had like what was the flavor of the gin fizz that we got?
Strawberry gin fizz.
We also had a really good strawberry gin fizz.
Because strawberries were also in season when we were there. I think the other thing that Tainan does really well, besides coffee and cocktail culture, is these traditional foods like the beef soup we talked about at the top that you can't really find anywhere else. We had some really good fried oysters and oyster noodles when we were with your mom. We were kind of driving outside of the city a bit more, and we were in a part of Tainan that has a lot of aquaculture farms right off the coast. So the oysters literally were like in buckets. We saw this guy pull up with buckets in the back of his truck, put them down next to the kitchen, and then immediately they just picked them up, started cleaning them, and then frying them into these oyster fritters that had maybe like chive and sweet potato starch in them as well.
Yeah, they were super good, and they're just frying them alongside the street. So when you like leave the restaurant or approach the restaurant, you see him frying them up. And we also got these really good oyster vermicelli noodles too.
And the fresh tilapia.
Oh my God. That was really good.
Like just a simple steamed fish, but the flavor was so sweet and fresh and just so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also while we were in Tainan, I got to take you to another one of my favorite spots in Taiwan, which is a yi mian spot, which translates to longevity noodles. And that is also something that is just a very subtle and flavorful dish.
Yeah, so I think longevity noodles, I thought they were a special thing for Lunar New Year, which I think is true for some people, but this place is popping off all the time. We drove by and day or night, there's a lot of people there and
Open until 1 a.m.
open until 1 a.m. Yeah, I
Always
love
a line.
the late night food culture. I think is so special. And I will say that comes at the expense of like things are not open early. Like even when we were in Taipei and we wanted to go to coffee shops, like they would not be open until 2 p.m., which I found to be very shocking as someone from New York.
I mean, there are places that are open, but, you know, you're not going to get the nice, fancy coffee that we were just talking about. But you can get your standard black coffee.
There's always 7-Eleven also.
There's always 7-Eleven, which you can get
anything.
Truly anything there.
I was not ready. I know that a lot of people talk about 7-Eleven and Family Mart, which is another big convenience store chain in Taiwan, as being special. But actually being there, like instead of having like, I don't know, the hot dogs that we have at 7-Eleven, they have like roasted sweet potatoes and soy marinated eggs and onigiri, just like actual food that you can eat, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I think we have to talk about Costco also before we close.
Oh, yeah. So my mom took us to Costco for pre-Lunar New Year shopping, and it was just, you know, packed. It's very different. But the food court there has just a selection of items that I just wanted to try everything.
And I think a lot of people, you know, if you like Costco, you love Costco. Like people really ride for Costco. And I think that's true all around the world. And they did still have the hot dog special, right?
They do have the hot dog special, and it's still $1.50 there, or the $1.50 equivalent there. And they also have like tteokbokki and iced pearl tea latte. Instead of a chicken bake, they have a bulgogi bake and a seafood bake. And their pizza, they have a seafood pizza. They also have a crispy chicken bucket, clam chowder, and then a Thai pork larb sandwich.
Which we didn't eat any of these, to be honest, because we were going to dinner right afterwards. But the food court was very popular. A lot of people were sitting and eating with all of their like Lunar New Year spoils that they were going to bring home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, to close, I want to play a rapid fire taste check with you. Very quick. Favorite food city in Taiwan?
Tainan.
Me too. Your favorite boba that we had on the whole trip?
Okay, honestly, I had a really good boba after you had left.
Okay, say more.
I mean, it was honestly just because, you know, we kept seeing those matcha places.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to one of them because I was craving a matcha and needed an afternoon boost. And something about the matcha being just really great matcha with really good boba inside of it, I don't know. I drank it so fast.
Was this in Tainan?
Yes.
I would say we went to Odd One Out, which is another kind of third wave single origin tea boba chain in Taipei. And that was the first time that I had an oolong with grapefruit and boba. And when I ordered grapefruit, I thought it was going to be a syrup. But what I received was real pieces of grapefruit inside of the tea that you could kind of slurp up and have a chunk of citrus with the boba. And that really set me off on a whole mission of like having the grapefruit oolong combination whenever I saw it at a place. So I think that boba was probably my favorite.
Is that where we had the boba jelly square things?
Yeah, the shapes at this place were also never I had things like that before. We had the honey cube boba, which was very, very squishy, QQ texture, little cubes. And then you got the jasmine silk boba that were like those long rectangles.
Okay, I was obsessed with that actually. So maybe that.
That was kind of too much boba for me, but I did appreciate that it was like, you know, fourth wave boba shapes.
Oh my God, what I forgot about this matcha one that I just mentioned is that I also got tofu in it.
Whoa, like tofu pudding?
Yeah.
Okay, that was like a dessert boba.
Yeah, it was. I think that's why I liked it so much.
Okay, wait. Back to the rapid fire.
Sorry.
Your favorite fruit that we had whole trip?
Wax apple.
Oh, okay, I did talk about wax apples when Matt and I were catching up, but it is the best textured fruit I've ever had. Like so juicy, but kind of light inside. I thought you would say dragon fruit, honestly. You got really into that.
Yeah, I think dragon fruit is much better out there, but I love a wax apple.
We ate a lot of wax apples. Okay, if you could eat one thing from our trip for lunch today, what would it be?
Imian.
Ooh. When we were in Tainan, we went to a really good Japanese place called maybe like Gui Gui or Gui Gui. And we had croquette curry and also like a pork katsu sando. And it was just so delicious. They were playing smooth jazz. It was a really cute spot. I feel like that's what I want for lunch today, you know?
That was really good.
Okay, the best souvenir to take home from Taiwan.
Oolong tea.
We brought home a lot of that. Also, I brought back some pineapple cakes, which I picked up like a bunch of them. I gave some to Matt and Clayton, of course, and those are really special and popular in Taiwan, especially around Lunar New Year. I think we saw a lot of people like on the high-speed rail, like carrying boxes of pineapple cakes to bring home to their family. So I really liked getting to participate in that experience. And my last question is, where do you want to go next together?
Back to Taiwan?
Yeah. Since we've been back, we keep on looking at each other, especially being in the cold here in New York and saying that we should go back. I want to go back, and then I also want to add Japan onto the trip.
Definitely.
Shirley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to listen to this at 1.3 speed together.
Me too.
This is Taste is hosted by Matt Rodbard and me, Aliza Abarbanel. The show is produced by Shalia Harris and Pat Stango and edited by Clayton Gumbert. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on all cool things happening.